Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the One Meal Channel. If you are new here, then welcome. I am a 20-something-year-old guy living in the Pacific Northwest, and every single day I make a massive pile of food for myself and consume it in a single sitting because I only eat one meal a day. If you want to enjoy this video as much as I like making these videos, grab a meal or a beverage of your own, sit down and enjoy, and let's get into it. So, I'm having some potato issues. That's not good, right? You don't want any of those little things on the side of your potato. How's everybody's Monday doing? Or if you're watching this now, it's probably Tuesday for you. I apologize for the new job kind of getting in the way of the typical upload schedule. We've been uploading a lot later in the day than what we usually do, but that's not going to stop me from making sure a video goes out. And if you really enjoyed this channel, then you tuned in yesterday to watch us take on a massive steak for the first time on the channel's history. So, as always, I appreciate all of you watching and getting us closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark. We are slowly inching our way there, and we are on track on hitting that by the end of this year in order to get the YouTube Partner Coveted Badge. So, thank you all for being part of the original 1,000. It won't be long until all of those slots are full up and this channel blows up in the not too distant future. We have gone back to the coconut oil, which we're going to use to cook up our potatoes, make them nice and fluffy. We're going to use something really simple, some chicken egg fried rice. You know how we like it. And we're going to get into that. We are thoroughly in the middle of the summer. It is extremely hot, extremely early in the year, and at least where I live, we had a relatively late winter. So forecasts are predicting that the winter is going to hit us very early this year. We're going to have a very short fall. That probably fall is going to start in late August, which by the way just happens to be my birthday month. You guys don't know when my birthday is, but it's sometime in August, just letting you know. But we're going to get very, very cold weather, extremely low temps, probably lots of snow. We're going to enjoy this summer as much as we can while we can. Think I have big enough onions? I think we're going to find out. Probably only going to eat half of one today. And let's pull out our handy dandy pallet of eggs, because you can never have enough eggs unless of course they don't sit right with you. In that case, you don't really need that many eggs. I have to say, knowing that I have a video like this waiting for me at the end of every day is quite comforting. I had a very long work day today, juggling a whole bunch of different tasks. It was quite enjoyable and also quite stressful all at the same time. So this is, a good way to relax at the end of the day. Now, give me 1 second. Noah was kind enough to do the dishes for me. Not that he doesn't do the dishes, I usually just beat him to it and get them put into the wash before he gets a chance to do that. But I saw something recently on social media that says you never really know how different your processes are, how aggravating it is when you load the dishwasher one way and your friend loads the dishwasher the other way. So I'm sure it was quite difficult for him to adjust to the way that I do things. And seeing the way that he puts everything in the dishwasher is a little difficult for me to adjust to as well, because everything is in places that I would not put them. It's very pretty though. I gotta say, it's very pretty. Everything is nice and evenly spaced in there. Everything looks nice. Interestingly enough, he put the cutting boards in there. I didn't think that he put the cutting boards through the dishwasher. So I'm not complaining. I prefer the cutting boards going through the dishwasher. But I also found that they kind of warp and melt. The dishwasher gets extremely hot. So let's get our onions done here. This is what happens if I don't use the finger technique that I usually do. and cut through it quite quick. Some people ask, why do you cut everything so slow? I say, well, because then this happens. I can't get a nice even cut on all these. A lot of you have been too gifted by watching Gordon Ramsay videos and watching him cut super nice. But I am not a super nice person. Not like Gordon Ramsay is really nice either, now that I think about it. Caught myself in a little conundrum here. Perfect. Well, that should be good enough. We like having relatively large pieces of onion. Let's grab our quart size bag here. See, all of you know what a quart is, right? No, you don't, because you live in Canada or Greece or South Africa where you use normal measurement, unlike us Americans where we use all of these strange fractional measurements. You would think that we would be better at fractions. I just want to let you know. I don't know if you thought this was a rumor or if you already knew that this was fact. But, obviously everybody knows what McDonald's is. And it is in fact true that Burger King tried to compete with McDonald's Quarter Pounder by making a Third Pounder, which obviously is heavier than a Quarter Pounder. But because the number 4 is greater than the number 3, Americans actually thought that the Third Pounder was not as big as a Quarter Pounder, and that is why the marketing campaign failed. At least that's the official story. I like to think that the marketing teams over at Burger King just did a really bad job, and so they blamed it on Americans being dumb, which is kind of a good plan, right? Because Americans aren't known for being incredibly smart, especially recently. We just seem to be getting dumber and dumber and dumber as the years go by, with lower and lower and lower IQs and ratings and grades in school. At the school that I went to when I was in high school, we had all sorts of college placement tests. We call them the SAT and the ACT. They don't require those anymore at my school. I went to a school with a lot of smart people. I think the average grade in that school was above a 3.0, which for America is pretty good. I think it's quite a bit over a 3.0. And they don't require SATs or ACTs anymore. And you wonder why the students get lower and lower quality education. Because if you don't have really high standards that you need to hit, really high targets that you need to hit, well, there's no stakes. So how can you expect a student to take all of their coursework seriously if at the end of the coursework there's no stakes? Not to mention that a lot of the colleges, the really desirable colleges, seem to have kind of arbitrary enrollment approval methods, let's say. There are a couple of clips that have gone around showing students who had a 5.0 GPA. I don't even know how you get that. There's just a lot of AP classes, a lot of advanced classes, and obviously getting A's in all of those. He had a 5.0 GPA. He applied for every single Ivy League school. He made a video with all of his letters that he got back from these schools. I think it was 13, 16 schools. And he got rejected from every single one of them. They didn't accept him. It's how is it that you get a 5.0 GPA, not a single Ivy League school accepts you? And as far as I'm aware, he didn't have any sort of crazy controversies and stuff that would cause him to be rejected. Maybe there were. That could be a reason. There's just such a low likelihood of that. I just sincerely doubt that. So I myself, I might as well open up just a little bit. I don't have any sort of formal education, as you probably could have guessed. I did go to a trade school for a while for electrical engineering, where I learned that, before I get to that, I went there for electrical engineering specifically for wind turbines. I wanted to get into the renewable energy space. The renewable energy wind turbine technician role. There were 100,000 open roles at the time that I went in. I went to the second best school for that type of trade in the United States. And I got about 6 months in, the jobs all went away because of reasons. And I learned that every single wind turbine has a diesel powered generator at the base, which primes the wind turbines to start. And you can Google that. Maybe it's not the same in your country, but I'm pretty sure that every single wind turbine in America, in order to start, they don't just let the brakes off of the rotors and let the wind come through and rotate the blades on their own. They put a diesel powered generator. You need diesel to prime the engine, to get it started, to run under its own power, to move the blades fast enough in order to generate residual power that'll charge itself and then actually get the renewable energy started. And then once they stop it, the actual power from the wind going through the blades isn't enough in order to get that engine to prime itself. It's a lot like if you have a car and you need to start your car, you need to have a starter, which essentially draws in power from your battery and then creates an explosion inside of your engine, which turns the engine, and then the rotating power of the engine allows that to be sustainable with itself in order to power itself as long as there's a fuel source going into it. The fuel source of the wind turbines, of course, being the wind. So anyway, as soon as I learned about that, I went, okay, well maybe it's generating more power than it's expelling, but there's no way of storing the power, and every time we need to start things up, you need oil. And in America, there's a really big push to cancel all oil for a while. And I went, this cannot be a sustainable industry. And sure enough, no pun intended, sure enough, that industry is not accepting a whole lot of job applications right now. With that being said, there are plenty of people that I know from that program that have gone on to do very well for themselves, and I'm very happy for them. But I ended up moving back into the town that I went to school in and getting some odd jobs before I found my first big boy job, which is how I started my career in sales. I hate that word career. I don't really have a career. I just basically learned how to do sales and work at sales organizations. That's what I did. But I always found that interesting. I always found that interesting about wind turbines, that they have a diesel generator in the base of them. You would think that they would have modified that just a little bit to, at least for optics reasons, right? Just for the optics, to be a little bit more climate friendly, but they were not. Okay, let's get the chicken in here, already pre-cooked. Rice is wrapping up as we speak. Noah is out fishing right now. I was unable to join him. I had to work late. But this weekend I will absolutely join him for a little fishing adventure, and I'm looking forward to that. The weather is awesome. Fishing season has opened up. I just need to get a tag, and we'll be all ready to go from there. While we wait for the rice to finish up and for the chicken to heat up, we'll go over to our handy dandy cupboard. This over here. Grab ourselves some eggs. Large eggs. I forgot to tell you about this, but the egg prices in America have gone down substantially. Obviously, extremely horrible egg shortage, and there's still egg shortage signs out. But the cost of an egg has gone from, like 75 cents an egg all the way down to 25 cents an egg, which is pretty fantastic. $3 for a dozen eggs. I haven't seen prices like that in a while. I mean, when I was a kid, you could get eggs for $1 or $2 a dozen. But now, $3 for a dozen of eggs, fantastic. And I believe the cost is even less. Well, the cost is less when you buy it in packs of 60. Like I do. So yeah, I think I got this pack of 60, yeah, for about $15, which is pretty fantastic. Can't go wrong with that. So yeah, about 25 cents an egg. Love that. Absolutely love that. And for those who are curious, we still have a ton of bacon sitting inside of our refrigerator right now. Perfect. It is all of the bacon pieces rather than the big strips. Find if I use the big strips, one, the big strips are more expensive, but I also go through them way quicker. You know, if there's 2 or 3 strips of bacon, just doesn't seem like enough. I need at least 4. When if you're using little bacon pieces, you can cover the entire base of your pan. And probably not get more than like 2 or 3 strips of bacon worth there at the bottom. Okay, this rice is not yet completed. It's still quite wet. We're going to give that a little bit more time. And over here, this is almost completely done. So we'll take this opportunity just to clean up a little bit. I have some dishes to put away tonight. Get ourselves put away. I saw some nice suggestions for the crock pot recipe that we're going to do later this week. Again, I saw the suggestions that you made last week. I thought those were good as well. Enchiladas sound fantastic. Enchiladas, I could go for an enchilada right now. That would be nice. However, the pulled pork with some sandwiches, basically just putting the pork roast in there with some barbecue sauce and putting that on some buns. That's really nice. I do think that was good. I can tell that you're a newer viewer though, because I haven't eaten bread on this channel since its inception, because I try to stay away from those types of whole grains. I know it's a little bit hypocritical because I'm just absolutely downing rice, but it's more so out of necessity in order to hit my calories than it is from any sort of principle on eating, if that makes sense. So regardless, I still found it to be a fantastic suggestion, and it did make my stomach rumble, because that would be delicious. But I don't know. We probably won't do that this week, but maybe sometime in the future. So keep sticking around. Everything that I have cooked has essentially been based on the suggestions of our viewers, but with some parameters. But essentially, it needs to be cooked in one pan. The steak was an exception. It has to be cooked in one pan, minimal cleanup, or be able to put into a crock pot. No bread, and yeah, those are essentially our parameters. I am excited to go out and start fishing again. So I really liked our rainbow trout Christmas dinner that we made for ourselves. To this day, that is still one of our most high-performing videos that we had. It was also one of the most delicious meals that I have had. After the steak that we made yesterday, Noah was a big fan of the fried potatoes that we used, which I thought was really cool. Essentially, you just slice the potatoes about 1/4 of an inch thick, no thicker than that. Put some olive oil in a pan and heat it up to about its hottest temperature that it can take before it starts burning. And you cook that up. It works with butter too, but I find that the butter burns a little bit quickly, so you have to have a combination of butter and oil. You heat it up to about as hot as it can go until it's almost, it's crispy on one side, and you flip it and you get the edges really crispy. But when you cut through it, it's fluffy in the middle, like mashed potatoes. That is my favorite way to have, let's just say, like russet potatoes. I think russet potatoes probably work the best for that, because you get this fluffy inside, like baked potato, and crispy outside, kind of like a chip or kind of like a French fry. I just think it's fantastic. I really enjoyed eating that. And he was a fan of that. That was the first time that I had ever made that for him. And I wouldn't say that Noah is critical of my food, but he's very detail-oriented. He's a very detail-oriented individual. So very, very few things that we do from a food perspective or from a technical perspective get past him. He notices everything, and he's not afraid to make his perspective known. And that's what I appreciate about him, because that's the only way that you can really improve. So after the meal, we both agreed that the sear on the steak was lackluster. So a lot of those extra juices that were in there were not saved, but the temperature was good. The potatoes were awesome, and the green beans were flavored really well. Of course, the challenge that you get with those canned green beans is that they are, inevitably very soggy. Those, and I mean like the canned green beans from the store. The original protein potato green bean recipe that I got to enjoy when I was a kid was fresh meat, freshly caught. I wouldn't say fresh potatoes, so store-bought potatoes, and then fresh green beans that were pulled directly from the garden. And even the green beans that were canned in like vinegar and given some kind of like dill flavoring and stuff were way crunchier than the canned green beans that you get from the store. And I gotta say that is, I am blessed and a little spoiled to have experienced something like that. Because once you get those fresh green beans cooked up, they are really fantastic. As I finish this up, because this is going to be my meal for the night, I've only put half of a uncooked cup of rice in here. That is my unit of measurement is always about uncooked cups of rice. I just put the cooked stuff in there. I don't know how much that is, probably like a cup and a half's worth of cooked rice. But while I finish this up, I think it's important to mention, I think most of you know, I'm not a very picky eater, although I am rather principled about what I make for myself. If I go over to other people's houses and they cook, I'll eat just about anything that's put in front of me, with the exception of eggplant, of all things, and oatmeal. I also said oatmeal, but it's been a long time since someone has served me oatmeal before. But anyway, the eggplant, specifically like baked eggplant, it's something about the texture. It's very slimy to me. It's just kind of gross. And I have a very hard, I would eat it, but it would not be a very good experience. But another vegetable, let's say, that I didn't really like was asparagus, of all things. Because I would have a lot of baked asparagus as a kid. And outside of the smell and outside of, little rumors that you get about, what it makes your pee look like and things, forget that. I just didn't like it. It was kind of, just put me off. It was just not something my body could take really well. And I remember moving in with Noah. It's probably just a couple of weeks of us living together. I was trying to impress him with some steak. He was trying to impress me with some of the things he was making. And and I was making the steak. And he went, "Why aren't you making any sides? You got to be able to make these with some sides." And so I made some mashed potatoes to go along with it. And he cooked up some nice, fresh asparagus from the farmer's market. But he pan-cooked them. He pan-cooked them in olive oil and seasoned them up himself. And it turned out awesome. And from that moment, pan-cooked asparagus, I wouldn't say became a new favorite, but it helped me get over my little phobia of asparagus, which is really nice. So it's nice to have friends like that together. Noah and I have lived together for about 5 years now, and I don't know where we would be without each other. We're definitely better with each other than without each other. So, for Noah, I'm going to use your knife. I know you watch these videos. I hope this absolutely aggravates you, but I'm going to put it over here. This is a bread cutting knife. You don't have any bread, and it's not suitable to use to cut butter. So I'm making an executive decision right now. It is going to be cleaned. All right. Well, 23 minutes into the video. It's time to turn this off, along with our light, and start to wrap things up. And as you know, we wrap every single video up exactly the same when we can, of course. And that is we put this into a massive bowl. Sorry about the noise. I know that sounded awesome. Put this into a massive bowl, and we bring 2 bowls out, because one needs to be measured. So let's zero this bowl out. I guess I only needed to bring 1 bowl out since I'm doing this a little bit early. We're going to move this to pounds, do the conversions. Do the conversions in your own country to ensure that the weight is coming out well. I don't know why I put my spatula all the way over here. Now I'm going to have to waste another spatula getting it into the bowl. Told you today was a long day. Let's get our food in here. So typically our meal will be, I don't know, around 2.5 pounds. I don't think this is going to even cross the 2 pound mark. mostly because we skimped on the rice today. I used a small potato and we used half of a large onion. But I'm not particularly hungry today. I've been rather stressed, to be honest, and that has kind of caused me to have a light appetite. Let's put the weight down on this, and 1.76 pounds. This is about enough to feed probably 2 people, maybe not 3. And this will be our meal for the day. So hey, I appreciate all of you tuning in and watching. Thank you very much. Crock-pot meal coming up here shortly. Let me know what you think, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.